And here... there we are. Hey folks, welcome to Minions of the Zoo, 1467. I am your host, JohnnyHellcat, and with me today are Minions Sanguine.
Good evening, all.
Hey Camel.
Hello.
And Traveling Exhibit, Travis Gardner.
Hello.
Yeah, so how are things going, guys?
I'm doing fairly grand, just prepping up my dinner. How about the rest of you? Let's go Travis first, since neither one jumped in.
Well, I got to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I just took 3 melatonin gummies, temazepam, and a Benadryl. So yeah, this might be fun.
So Travis is going to start saying some crazy shit like in the next 45 minutes.
Well,
Just don't go full Mel Gibson, man. Don't get the channel taken down.
I won't drop any of the hard words.
Yeah, save that for my channel.
Yeah. No gamer words on this channel.
Oh, I was watching some stream the other day that had Becca Farrell on there, and my God, it was amazing that what they were. It was like they just didn't care.
No, they don't. That's they do tend to take it to the push it to 11, as it were.
And I can honestly say I'm right there with them when it comes to, you know what? Fuck the censors. But at the same time, I'm trying not to get anyone's channel.
Yeah, I'd feel really bad if, like, the first stream that I'm actually here as a minion, we get taken down.
Yep. And welcome aboard as a full-blood minion now.
Thank you. I felt really bad because, like, Reject messaged me about it, I think, like, a day or two after I brought Nana Camel up here to the hospital. I was like, yeah, that's cool. And then just went radio silent for like 2 weeks.
Shit happens, and we all understand real life before online. So that is not a problem at all. Yeah.
I've managed to make it back home a couple times in the intervening days. Because like I said, today is week number 3 we're starting.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple times, like, when Quiz was streaming, it's like, I don't know, man, can I stick around for, like, an extra hour or two? Nah, I better get back. Because I don't know about the situation here with, like, the Coof, but I know everyone. I asked one of the nurses' aides, I was like, so you guys are kind of short-handed, huh? She's like, yeah. I was like, does that have anything to do with the mandate, or is it something else? She goes, well, yeah, kind of, sort of has to do with the mandate. You know, some folks decided they didn't want to take the jab.
Yep.
And others, apparently, they found out that they could make more money traveling. So, like, people have bailed out of here and have gone to, like, Colorado and other states making more money.
Yeah, it's been a big problem, and it's a problem almost entirely of the hospitals and the federal government's design. Because I've covered this a few times, I think, but it bears repeating. What happened when it came to hospitals, and the reason why you keep hearing that there's a nursing shortage and whatnot, is when the pandemic first started up, a lot of things closed down. Makes sense. We didn't really know much about what was going on, so they tried to narrow down how many people would be out and about. There was the lockdown, kind of made sense for a week or two, sure. But what hospitals did was they went, oh, we're going to stop doing what we determined to be elective surgeries. They were ridiculously broad as to what qualified for elective surgeries, because in some areas, heart stents counted as elective surgeries. Which no one sane would say, you know what is an elective surgery? Sticking a tube in your heart to make it work right. That's an elective surgery.
Well, also, I mean, like, specifically, like, with Nana Camel, for the longest time, she did not want to go to the hospital for what was bothering her.
Yep.
Because she didn't want to have them shoving shit up her nose to test for the cough.
Yep.
And, you know, she didn't want to risk getting it because she's already immunocompromised. So, yeah, she put it off, and it just got worse and worse, and now we're here.
Yep, and then, so that was what they started doing. They started closing down sections of the hospital where it was for elective procedures, which meant that they weren't getting patients in, so the amount of money that the hospitals were getting decreased. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So you have a constant drain on costs, the amount of staff that you have, and you have a decreased amount of funding because you're getting in less money. So the logical thing is you reduce the staffing. So they started furloughing and firing nurses and doctors at the hospitals.
Well, and we weren't in a good position when it came to having nursing staff, because for a few years beforehand, we did have a problem with nursing shortages.
Yep.
Just on a much smaller scale, and mainly because we have a bottleneck with nursing training. There's a year wait to get into some nursing schools.
Yeah, we have a higher demand than we have a throughput of new nurses in not every area, but in many areas. And then, so they started sacking nurses, started sacking doctors in order to bring down the cost of keeping the facility open. Then they started reopening the facility, and the sensible way of doing that is you reopen and you rehire at roughly the same rate so that you have the proper staffing to the amount of the hospital that you have open, right? That isn't what they did. Nor did they do the other sensible thing of hire ahead of the open. No. They just threw open the doors with the reduced staffing that they had, and they went, okay, everyone that works here, you're now pulling additional shifts in order to cover us doing this. Which then caused nurses to get burnt out, doctors to get burnt out. Everyone became much less happy working at the hospitals.
And people like Camel escorting people through the hallways.
Yep. And then what?
But Sanguine, I saw all those dancing videos of nurses and doctors on TikTok. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's remarkable when you have fewer patients in the facility and those nurses and doctors survived the culling of the staff from the various wards being shut down, how little they had to worry about. So they had time for their TikTok dances. Now they don't, and they're very unhappy about that. Then you have the vaccine mandate come out, and it varies from field to field. I think it's something like 5 to 6% of the working people in general have issues with the vaccine mandate and refuse to follow through with it. But in certain fields, it's much higher, such as in New York, it was 33% of hospital staff decided.
Yeah, didn't they like cut loose like 10,000 staff from New York alone?
They cut loose about a third of all hospital staffing in New York. They lost about a third of all EMS and fire in New York. And they lost about a third of their police force in New York alone.
Now, that's the whole state you're talking, right?
I believe so. It might have just been the city, but I think it's the entire state. And that obviously causes a staffing shortage, right? So
yeah.
What do you have to do when you have a staffing shortage? You go to the people that you're already telling to work additional time, and you go, hey, you have to work some additional shifts.
Or you end up with assholes like me, just stuck in limbo. I feel like Tom Hanks in The Terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a man without a country right now, and I'm just milling about when I'm not taking care of my grandmother.
Yep.
I almost have the floor plan of this hospital, like, committed to memory. I could sleepwalk through this place. I'm telling people, like, hey, man, you don't want to get on that elevator. That one's kind of rickety, you know?
That one's slower. Go to this one over here. You'll get there faster. No, you don't want to go to that cafeteria. You want to go to the cafeteria down 2 floors over on the left side of the building. That's the good cafeteria.
No, they don't have a good cafeteria. They got the cafeteria, and then they got Starbucks. And
so it's one of the hospitals with a smaller size.
Well, I mean, it's a whole complex. Like, they have multiple different buildings. So, like, the building I'm in, they have a cafeteria on one side of the floor, and then on the other side of the floor, they've got a coffee shop. So,
when I was an EMT in the Northern Virginia, D.C. area, one of the facilities that we would constantly run out of, it was this massive hospital complex. It's identified as one hospital. It's effectively 6 or 7 hospitals that grew too big and just merged together. All in the same area. So there were like 4 or 5 different cafeterias. And we would know this cafeteria actually has some decent food. This one, god awful. Stay away from it. This one, depends on what you're looking for.
One thing that people haven't been asking, well, they've been answering, but they haven't asked. These are all medical experts, experienced. Why did they not want the mandate?
A good chunk of them are in the camp of, look, I've been working the entire pandemic and I haven't gotten sick, or I had it, so why the fuck would I go for a vaccination after getting it? Some of them, it's just, you have a certain percent of the population that it doesn't matter what you tell them to do. The fact that you're telling them to do, they'll have immediate response of, how about go fuck yourself?
My people.
Yeah. There's always going to be that certain percent of the population that it does not matter what you tell them to do, what your rationale is. The mere act of you saying you're going to do this will get them to immediately snap back and go fuck yourself. And you're getting a mix of those.
Aiden Paladin did a video on that recently. In her remarkable detail.
Yep.
About how all that works. And there was a comment, and I don't know, I forgot who put it on Twitter, but it was like, you know, your marketing and messaging is terrible when you have a medicine that's like, this medicine will literally keep you from dying, and nobody wants to take it. Mm-hmm. You can't take it away. Well, why not? Because you think that fear is what sells people on things.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that drives me crazy about a lot of people when they try to argue for this or that. They go whole hog in one approach, and then if that doesn't work, it suddenly becomes, well, we need to force people. No, that's just going to turn even more people off. What you do, if the best way that they could convince people to take the vaccine is stop saying that everyone must have it. Stop saying that we need to mandate it. And if you don't take it, then fuck you. You need to be unable to have a job, unable to rent a place, unable to own a house, unable to drive anywhere, unable to travel out of the area where you currently are, and unable to go into a grocery store and start going, okay, here are the reasons why you should get it. Here are the advantages of getting it. We aren't going to make any new advantages. You decide for yourself. Here are the advantages. Here's the potential problems, because there are always potential problems. It's very rare. Do not get me wrong when I say this. It is extremely rare, but there are certain people that are allergic to certain adjuvants that are used in some vaccinations. Not every vaccine has them, but some vaccines have certain adjuvants that some people are allergic to. So if someone's allergic to an adjuvant that is in this vaccine, you want to clearly state, if you're allergic to, I don't know, adjuvant number 3, then you don't want to take this vaccine, but this vaccine doesn't contain adjuvant number 3. So that one's available. Let people know that type of shit. Because if you make it easy, if you just, here's the advantages, here's the disadvantages, here's the potential side effects, here's the likelihood of each of these side effects, most people will decide, okay, the benefits outweigh the negatives for the vast majority of people, so I'll go do it. I'm not being forced. I'm willing to go do it. The moment that you start trying to force people, you will tap into that certain percent of the population that will just knee-jerk fuck you, and they won't shift from that. And there's a reason why. It's not a bad thing that we have a element of the human race that has that knee-jerk fuck you. You don't get to tell me what I need to do and what I don't get to do. Because that's kind of what having freedom is.
Speaking of telling people what to do and whatnot, have you guys seen the new Pfizer pills?
I have not.
Oh yeah, Pfizer came out with a treatment regimen in pill form to inoculate. I guess, you know, instead of getting the jab, you take a pill. And it came out today that the government bought, was it like 10 million treatment courses for like 5.2 billion. So
Yeah.
bunch of folks online today have been like, $500 a pill? It's like, no, actually it's $500 per treatment. It's 30 pills over the course of 5 days.
And also,
So,
it's a matter of R&D costs money. This
Yeah,
is something
yeah.
that drives me crazy when it comes to a lot of conversations about why does medicine cost so much?
Well,
Research is a bitch.
I mean, if you actually break it down, like the cost per pill, it's like $17, $18 and change.
Yep, and
You know, roundabouts.
it'll hover there for a while, then they'll develop more efficient ways of producing it, and it'll come down. The thing is that
But-
when a new bit of tech first hits the market, it's always going to be ridiculously expensive.
What I thought was funny about it though was since we've been up here for almost a month, we've been watching television, right?
Oh no.
And mostly it's just been like, you know, this one channel they've been playing TV marathons of different shows. So like, I don't know how many seasons of like Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Hawaii Five-0 we've gone through, but I'm well versed.
Nice.
And funny thing is like I don't know if how they wired it up or if it's just the cable connection or what, but it keeps hopping channels on us. And sometimes it'll hop channels like 3 times in a minute, and sometimes, you know, it'll go for hours. But one day it hopped channels while both of us had been asleep, and it wound up on like local news station for the morning news. And right as I'm waking up, I hear them talking about this new Pfizer pill for the coof. And it struck me as funny, you know, still half asleep, you know, wiping the crud out of my eyes, that it's 30 pills over the course of 5 days. I was like, so we went from 2 jabs to 30 pills, huh? Wow. And the nurse that was in there with Nana Camel, he snapped at me. He's like, well, man, you know, science moves pretty fast. You know, 100 years ago, we weren't even able to fly. It's like, and I wanted to go back at him, but again, still half asleep, and they have a policy about, you know, like being disrespectful to staff and whatnot. And the last thing I want to do is get banned from this place because I'm the only one that takes care of Nana Camel. So I went ahead and bit my tongue, but I wanted to tell him, it's like, yeah, because physics and pharmacology and biochemistry are analogous, right?
But they're all the same.
It's just science.
Oh yeah, science. I love science.
It's aggravating because, like I said, it comes down to a lot of people that try to communicate things about science do a really shit job of it, and they do connect things in ways that everyone else just kind of goes, what the fuck are you talking about? And
yeah, well, like my first thought was like, yeah, the Wright brothers were actually more than 100 years ago now, dude. And then my second thought was physics, pharmacology, it's all the same.
Yeah, and the thing that drives me the most up the wall when it comes to communicating about science is the phrase that everyone loves to say, but people always drop the most important part. The scientific consensus. They always love saying that.
Oh, sorry.
There's one word that's missing every time that someone utters that phrase. Begrudging. The begrudging scientific consensus. That's the actual scientific consensus that fucking matters. It's when people are forced by their inability to disprove something to go, okay, fuck it. We use it for now until someone can actually show that this is stupid.
Yeah, whenever someone tells me, you know, the scientific consensus, I always tell them, like, yeah, Galileo would like to have a word with you.
The science isn't governed by consensus. There's a lot of times that the correct answer begins as the minority answer, like washing hands.
Which is why I said it's the begrudging scientific consensus. Because if it's everyone's going, yeah, sure, that sounds right, that isn't worth a goddamn thing. Because no one's actually testing it. Whereas if it's the begrudging scientific consensus, that inherently means that someone is going, no, that has to be wrong. Let me try this. Fuck, that didn't demonstrate that it was wrong. Let me try, goddamn, that's still, let me try, fuck. And it's their inability to disprove something. Their inability to show, hey, this is where this fucks up. That makes them go, okay, we'll accept it for now, but we're going to keep trying to poke holes in it. Just none of the holes that we've tried to poke have actually worked.
Sanguine, remind me again, were you born before or after 1990?
I was born exactly.
Oh, 1990.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I ask is because, if I'm not mistaken, they switched to calling it global warming in '89 when I was born. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what they were worried about before that? What the scientific consensus was?
It was the big chill, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were going to have another ice age.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they call it climate change now, is because people started questioning the whole global warming, because it's like, wait a minute.
Everyone heard Al Gore say how Miami was going to be underwater, within 10 years, and guess what? South Beach is still there.
Yeah, like I said, go ahead, you first.
I kind of, there's a lot of things I blame. I like blaming. There's a lot of things I blame, but one of them is that Facebook site, I fucking love science.
Yeah, I hate them. I do actually love science. That's why I study it in college. That's why I'm currently working a lab job, and I intend to continue working lab and medical jobs. And I fucking hate that site.
And also, I mean, Polly goes into when he's talking about the Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye and all them, and like they're not. It's not actual science. It is trivia.
You mean Bill Nye, the engineering guy?
Oh yeah.
Bill Nye, I have a massive issue with. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I have an issue with here and there, but there's something that I've argued with Polly about, and that is there is a place for what I would call science curation, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is effectively a science curator, and what I mean by that is he runs the Hayden Planetarium. He's not a research scientist, because that's its own thing. When you're actually doing the research, being out in the field, running the experiments, that's being a research scientist. But being a curator for a science museum, for a planetarium, for an aquarium and shit like that, that requires you to have a degree of scientific knowledge where you did train as a scientist. You did get your degrees as a scientist, or at least ideally as the appropriate type of scientist, but you aren't actively researching. Those I call curators, because they have the knowledge where they're able to explain what Neil deGrasse Tyson can explain, how the conception of space-time works, at least to the point where he last learned. There are some changes that he might be going, okay, yeah, there is this bit of research going on. I'm not completely read up on it. The problem that he gets is sometimes he will go he'll sound too sure of himself in an area that he did not study, and he will not make it clear enough that he's talking outside of his particular wheelhouse.
Well, my issue with him is that when he first came on the stage, he was great, but his celebrity is now, and personality is now outweighing the topics that he is discussing, and that I dislike. If you're presenting something, your personality and everything is backseat to all that, at least in my opinion.
I would say the importance that other people place on him is too high, but I have a harder time blaming an individual for that. Like Carl Sagan. I fucking love Carl Sagan and his run of the cosmos. That was fantastic. Carl Sagan became a recognized, well-known name that people trusted. And they would take what he said as authoritative. That's a bit of a problem, depending on how far it's taken. But I would not say that that was a failure of what Carl Sagan did.
I mean, he's no Fauci.
Fuck Fauci.
Do you all...
Carl Sagan had to actually be right about things. Fauci has been wrong about goddamn near everything that he's ever mentioned. Well, he's been right and wrong. Let me phrase it that way, because on most things, he's been both sides of an argument at the same goddamn time. So he's always able to say, no, I was saying this. But you were also saying, no, I was saying this thing. I wasn't saying that thing. Here's the video of you saying that thing. But if you showed this video, I was saying that thing.
Well, yeah, talking out of both sides of your mouth, pretty much.
Yeah, and that pisses me off. But when he's not talking on both sides, he tends to just be wrong. Like, his ideas and his stances when he was dealing with the AIDS epidemic, you can't be more wrong than Fauci was with the AIDS epidemic.
I just want to know where he got his fetish for masks. That's the one question I would ask him.
What? Sorry.
Like,
oh, did I cut out?
Like any
Did
good,
anybody hear me?
like any good psychologist, it always stems from your mother.
I said femboys, but that's a little too far.
Yeah, I'm absolutely positive that his obsession with people need to be masked came from the fact that it gave him celebrity. He became the voice and the face of the we need to mask, we need to do all this, and he is a insane little creature that lives off of fame, much like many movie stars and shit like that. The problem is he went into what should be a scientific field, medicine. It should be kind of a soft science, but still a science. And what I mean by soft science is there is a little bit of artistry almost to medical treatment, since it's not just, oh, this problem, here's the solution. It becomes okay, you're having this problem, let's do this. Okay, that had this, so we need to do this. And it's constantly reevaluating and tweaking and adapting, because not everyone says things the same way, so you need to be able to get that back and forth going with people to actually figure out what's going on in a person. But he loves the fame, and that is where he keeps on fucking up, because he will say things just to have people praise him. He doesn't really give a shit about whether what he's saying is right, as long as enough people are praising him and are advocating for him to be given more money, more power. He's happy.
He's just a... The thing is that everybody's like, oh, he's a great scientist. I'm like, well, no, not really, because he's a bureaucrat.
Yeah, he's a bureaucrat that's trying to masquerade as a scientist. And even when he was actually knowledgeable about the field, that's with air quotes, he was, again, almost entirely wrong about goddamn near everything. Do you guys know the shit that he said about the AIDS epidemic?
Yeah, some actually.
I don't know the whole story, but if I'm not mistaken, at one point, didn't he say it was airborne after they knew it was bloodborne?
Yes, he said that it was airborne, and he also said that it could be caught by children if there was an adult in the household that had AIDS and they both ate from the same cereal box.
That is...
He's just anti-cereal.
It was well known at this point that AIDS, HIV, was transmitted through bodily fluids, such as blood, semen, shit like that. And after it was well known, after pretty much everyone else was going, okay, we need to worry about using these sort of barriers, these sorts of solutions, and also we need to do more research in order to figure out how to combat it in the long run. He was still saying, it's airborne. You can just catch it by, if someone has AIDS and they sneeze, you can catch AIDS. And everyone else was going, what the fuck are you talking about? No, you can't, you insane son of a bitch.
If AIDS was airborne transmissible, there wouldn't be a human race at this point.
At the very least, there wouldn't be a California.
Yeah, I mean, but have you ever looked at? I mean, the early history of AIDS is very, very interesting, because they always point at the CDC coming out with the MMWR. In 1981, that's when we knew about AIDS. It's like, no, we started figuring it out in the in the very late 70s. In 77, they started seeing increases of various diseases. that wouldn't happen in normal people that had.
There were a bunch of things that started popping up. Like there was a particular strain of the same fungus that causes thrush, if I remember correctly, that was becoming extremely common in certain areas, and a number of other diseases that normally weren't really an issue that were suddenly wreaking havoc in people. And they're originally looking into whether or not there was effectively a more virulent form, a more deadly form of these particular things that is new. And they were slowly working through, okay, no, it isn't that. Is it this? No, it isn't that. How about no? So yeah, they were slowly working towards the idea that it was a immune compromisation.
I feel that if we had a functioning CDC back then that was doing the disease surveillance that they should have been doing, we would have caught it probably 3 years earlier than we did. And I am almost convinced that, because it was already epidemic in Africa by that point. They called it slim because you lost weight.
Yep.
But you had people like Fauci that it's easy for Fauci to be right on things because most of the time he's telling people to stay away from other people and wash their hands. Well, those two things are ways to get to not catch any disease. They teach you that in kindergarten. That is a kindergarten thing, for fuck's sake. It's not advanced epidemiology.
Yeah, and like I said, there were certain signs early on. We were trying to figure out just what the hell they were pointing at, because it was a shit ton of different fungi and bacteria and viruses that normally aren't an issue that were suddenly an issue. And they just were paring it down. But then after we found out, nope, this is the HIV virus, and it's transmitted through bodily fluid, Fauci was still going, no, I think it's the air.
Or hell, one person still was suggesting that it was in poppers.
Yep.
Oh, what is that dude's name? I think he was on Rogan once. He was trying to say that it was, because gay dudes were sitting there doing poppers and partying, that it affected their immune system.
Yeah, there was the idea that it...
What was his name? I can't remember.
I can't remember his name either, but there was a camp of people that were arguing that it wasn't just the virus, it was the virus and, well, effectively drug-induced immunocompromisation. Mm-hmm. And those at least had a more valid argument, because their argument was it was both. So they were going, yes, we found that there are these problems that this disease caused, but they were saying the disease itself does not explain all of the issues. So it needs to be the disease plus. They were wrong and still are wrong that it doesn't explain the issues. It explains it rather nicely, so there is no need for that plus. But at least the plus that they were offering was something that could be possible. Not, we know this disease is only transmitted through bodily fluid. Nope, it's transmitted through the air. Do you think that there's just semen aspiration, semen particulates floating around and being inhaled?
I mean, if you do it hard enough, maybe.
Yeah, that's not very likely. To say the least, not very likely.
You just walk outside one day and it's like, damn it, the cum was thick today. Mm-hmm. It's Houston. Sorry.
Well, I mean, maybe in San Francisco.
But no, but then we knew less about AIDS going into that pandemic than when it came to the COOF, they handed it to us, the information. We knew about the virus. We knew about the symptomology. We knew all that.
But we also didn't know how much we could trust from the information that we were given. And there was a lot of really bad information coming from a number of areas fairly early on. There's also a lot of really good information that we were given fairly early on that we discounted because of bad information, which was a pain in the ass. And I'm not sure what Gamer Valina is referring to when she said, I've been to Thailand. I would disagree. God, I hope you don't mean the aerosolized semen.
I can't see chat, so...
I was going to say, if anybody in chat's wondering why my name has changed so many times, it's because I'm effectively blind tonight. I am streaming from the phone, so, go ahead and get any digs about me in you want. I can't comment on them, so...
Yeah,
I cannot defend myself unless somebody else on the panel tells me what you said.
I have chat open in another window, so I'm keeping an eye on it.
But can I do?
You'd have to open it up in a new tab for the stream and then just pop out the chat.
Okay.
Just make sure to mute the stream, otherwise you'll hear us talking double.
But no, that's why we needed to have a good disease surveillance. There should be part of that within the intelligence community. That way we can double check. So like when we get something from a questionable country, we can check and say, okay, these sources seem good.
We do have that. The problem is that it was happening so quickly that there wasn't the available time to really filter through all the information, and a lot of it was hitting the media almost as quickly as it was hitting the actual agency that was supposed to deal with it. So one of the things that was said early on in the pandemic was that Trump had gotten rid of the government body that was reviewing pandemics and diseases, which anyone who doesn't know this, listen closely. That is complete horseshit. What happened was Obama started a specific office that he had report. I can't remember the governing body that he had them report to, but he had them report to government body X. Let's just say it that way. There was another office that was already reporting to government body X. The office that was already reporting to them had more funding, larger facilities, had a network already set up to do the job, and was the Bio-Warfare and Pandemic Prevention Office.
Yeah, it was just a case of good old government redundancy in bureaucracy.
It was the government made two offices, funded both of them, and one of them was pretty much doing fuck all because it didn't quite have the funding to be effective. One of them was doing a fair bit because it had the funding. It was the older office that had the funding, that had the staffing, that had the connections. And when Trump was reading into it, he went, why do we have two of these? This one's newer, right? Yep, okay. Let's fold the newer one into the old one. So let's not fire any of the people that actually do the work. Let's get them to be shifted over to the other office, which has better funding. We'll increase that office's funding by a little bit. It'll still be cheaper than paying both offices, but it'll allow the previous office to be a bit more effective.
and they'll have the increased staffing. So, good deal. Should work. Then the only person that lost their job was the one person who was not a specialist in the field, who was not given the job due to their research capability or knowledge about the field, but was given the leadership position because he was an Obama loyalist. So he lost his job. He was just a presidential appointee. And most presidential appointees lose their job when the next president comes in. That's fairly fucking standard. There'll be a slight transition period, and then someone else will be named to that position, and someone else will take it over. That's all it is.
Hey.
And yeah, what Gamer Valine is saying in chat, where it's a lot of people are saying that masks that aren't actually effective, according to all the documentation, are being said to be effective now, is a fair bit of bullshit. She does this more specifically by saying that occupational safety and health standards spells out the criteria for N95 respirators in standard 1910.134.
Well, if I trust Gamer Valine more than I do Fauci, so I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Since we're on the topic of government funding and whatnot, I did have a interesting little back and forth today with a couple of communists. So apparently the new defense funding is being debated in the Senate and everything, and of course Bernie is against it because if I'm not mistaken, the 2022 defense spending is supposed to go up to like $778 billion. Somebody on Twitter, I can't remember exactly what they said because I can't look it up right now, but they said that these politicians, they pass $1 trillion defense spending annually. They don't even think about it. It's like no, they don't.
Yep.
Like, and somebody else like, yes, they do. So a simple Google search, 10 seconds is what it took. Do you guys know what the defense spending was for fiscal year 2021?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
It was like $705 billion.
I can believe that.
Yeah. And apparently they're trying to up it to $778 billion for 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Now, no math whiz. I went to public school my entire life. But I'm fairly certain $778 billion is much lower than $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
By a healthy margin.
Yeah. And so like I posted that, right? It was like, it was a government website like defense.gov or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody else, I guess they didn't see that reply, so they went to my first one where I said like, no, they don't. Like, source. So I just posted it again. It's like, really, this is really simple. Google foo here. You don't have to be a black belt or nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like everyone says, well, the military expenses are the single greatest expense within the budget.
According to the CBO, it is 1/6 of total federal spending.
We spend way more on the military,
Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. That's the majority of federal. Not the majority, but a much larger percentage. I think it's like 40 some odd percent compared to like the 12% of the military spending.
Yeah, they always want to say that the military is the biggest expense from the federal government. And they
not even close.
Say that it is much more than all the welfare programs, all the social, all this, and they include all these things. And there's one thing that makes them think that. And that is...
They're dumb.
If you look at
I'm trying to remember the proper term for the spending that they have to vote for each year versus spending that's just
Discretionary?
Yes, discretionary. If you look at discretionary spending, then the largest portion of discretionary spending is the military. I'll freely admit that. But if you then look at how many of the other things in discretionary spending are counted as welfare, and then you add in the non-discretionary spending, holy shit! Suddenly the military expenses are absolutely dwarfed. And also, when you look at what a government really should be doing, one of the things that pretty much everyone says, yeah, government should be in charge of, is defense.
I mean, one of the few things that government should be in charge of, yeah.
Yeah. It is one of the things that everyone will agree. Yeah, you need defense, you need some form of police or law enforcement of some such. Those are the two main categories. And then you'll get in like roads and shit like that as the follow-ons. But you typically start with military, you need national defense. So, oh, woe is me. The government's spending money on one of the things that it's actually supposed to spend money on? Wait. How is that an issue?
I just had a problem. I just have a question. You said you were arguing with two commies and they were complaining about spending?
No, they were complaining about military spending. If only we cut the military spending, then we could have utopia here in the US of A, Travis.
That's.
I mean, they're totally cool with the other 80-some-odd% of the federal budget and how it's being spent. It's that 12%, that 1/6 of the federal spending that is military spending that is just fucking up this country, in their opinion.
That's like you guys heard about the UN and Elon Musk dust.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful, man. What was that? The World Food Program or whatever?
It was the UN World Hunger Program, if I remember.
Yeah, like the WFP or something like that.
Yep. So for those who don't know, the person in charge of the UN
I believe it's a World Food Program. Yeah.
Yeah. In charge of that group was talking out his ass and said,
if they had 2% of Elon Musk's wealth, they could end world hunger, and it came out to $6 billion.
If they have just
roughly
2% of Elon Musk's money, they would be able to end world hunger. So, for those who don't know, the group is already getting something like 6 times that.
If I'm not mistaken, they already had $8 billion.
I could have sworn
so with Elon
more than that. Even I thought it was at the very least 3 times to more.
Well, their overall may be, but for I guess this year or however much, whatever time frame, they already had over $8 billion allocated for their program. So they wanted another $6 billion from Elon, which would have brought them up to $14 billion total.
Yep. So.
And he said, well, he had to reply to him asking well, how would this work? Because I'll cut the check right now. I'll sell some stock right now.
Yep.
If you can prove to me that this money will actually solve world hunger.
Give me the exact open source accounting of where the money would go and how it would solve world hunger.
But yeah, he pretty much said, explain to me how this money would be used to solve world hunger, and I'll cut you a check.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy came back and it's well, it actually wouldn't solve world hunger, but it would, it would do this, and that, or whatever. And Elon just replied back with I don't know if it was a screenshot or if it was a link to an article about UN. Yeah, it was a link about UN aid workers trading sex for food in Africa.
Yeah. So
they were raping kids so that these kids could, have food to eat.
Yep. The full thing was that his response was give me the full source for this. Let me look at the numbers. Let me look at your math. They then put out the math, and it was more than $6 billion to delay starvation for something like 6 months in just Africa. Nowhere else.
Well, I remember seeing the actual reply, and he didn't give like a ton of, again, 280 characters in his reply, but he was saying he started kind of backpedaling a bit, and then that's when Elon hit him with that link. It's like, so what happened here?
Yeah, he started a chain that was him working through the numbers. And for just Africa, for like 6 months, it would have been $6.6 billion. So more than the $6 billion that he said would solve world hunger. And he said solve world hunger, not delay it for 6 months on one continent. And only one continent. And it was in response to that, Elon went, hey, isn't this you guys? And sent the article about the UN program trading food.
Sex for food, yeah.
Africans for blowjobs and various other sexual acts, yes.
There was does anybody know who PJ O'Rourke is?
I've not read any of his stuff lately, but yeah, I know who PJ O'Rourke is. He's a writer. I can't remember where he writes for, but he's written a bunch of books too. I caught PJ O'Rourke on Real Time with Bill Maher. He used to be a big regular on there.
He wrote a book called All the Trouble in the World, The Lighter Side of War, Death, and Famine.
Okay.
And
I have to check it out.
And one of the things he states in that is, we could go a lot farther in solving the famine problems in Africa if we just went in there and shot a couple of warlords that are causing the problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that is true. But, you'll have some globalist NPR listening commie telling you that, oh, no, Travis, it's not that simple. Well, fucking explain to me why it's not that simple.
Yes, the whole problem when it comes to, well, not the whole problem, but the main aspects when it comes to the reason why global hunger is a thing, world hunger is a thing, is you have corrupt governments that hoard resources. These are the warlords that you're referring to. Communist dictators are really nasty for this as well. And they damn near just create starvation out of nowhere. Even when they would have the resources to feed the people never seem to get fed. Then the unequal distribution of arable land. Because you have certain countries that they have an obscene amount of land that they can grow shit on. The US, we are ridiculously lucky when it comes to growing food. We have some of the most fertile land in the greatest concentration on Earth. So North America does fantastic when it comes to food production.
And we have the obesity rates to prove it.
Yeah, the Sahara might be surprising for a lot of people, but the Sahara is not exactly known for its wealth of arable land.
You're reminding me of a Sam Kinison bit now, Sanguine.
So if your country has a large part of its landmass includes the Sahara Desert, you probably aren't going to be producing enough food to feed your fucking people. Then
you live in the desert. Just move to where the food is.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the issue of food is perishable. So the fact that the U.S. produces a ridiculous amount of food, all of North America produces an absolutely ridiculous amount of food, doesn't really help that much when the cost to transport that food quickly enough that it doesn't spoil in transit is prohibitively expensive. To transport it in such quantity that it would reach the people that need it with enough time for them to actually then use the food in a reasonable manner is prohibitively expensive.
And one of the other things is by us subsidizing and giving food to these countries, the land that the agricultural what were those pills are taking in? Those.
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Okay.
With U.S. aid, the U.S. agency, whatever. Given when we give away a bunch of food aid and stuff, it actually makes it harder for farmers in Africa to be able to produce crops and turn a profit to continue producing crops. So we're artificially stamping down their own agriculture. Is that about what you're trying to say?
Yeah. I mean, if Jim is giving you food, you're not going to buy it from Bob. Why does Bob have an incentive to grow food then?
Yeah, this is something that is well documented when it comes to this, that when you're just giving people food, the number of farmers in that area starts to decrease. And
It's the old give a man a fish, teach a man to fish adage.
well, it's not even that. It goes beyond that. It is the... Are you guys familiar with positive and negative feedback loops?
Yeah.
Let's say that we are, but go ahead and explain it anyway.
So the one that matters here is a negative feedback loop. A negative feedback loop is when the more of something is present, the less the action that the lower the level of activity that produces that thing occurs. So if you have a fuck ton of food, the number of people that you're going to have assigned to making food is going to go down. You get this in a lot of 4X games. You guys have all played 4X games, right?
We're talking like foreign exchange, like currency exchanges and whatnot?
No, 4X are like Civilization.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, okay.
Gotcha.
Civilization and Age of Empires, shit like that. It's the explore, exterminate, extract, the 4Xs. So when you have an area that is producing a fuck ton of food, more food than that area can handle, you start kind of clicking people out of being assigned to gather food, and you start sending them to do other shit, right?
Yeah.
Same thing happens in real life. When food is just being dumped into an area, the people in that area start going, why the fuck would we make food? Let's go do something else.
Or nothing.
Or nothing, depending on the temperament of that population.
I mean, if we're dead set on actually aiding Africa in stopping famines, and we're not going to do the whole shoot warlord thing, we need to invest in potable water systems and irrigation systems. And I think that would do more than the tons of food that will not get distributed.
Yep. We need to research the text that would allow them to produce food
in areas where food can't be produced normally, which is what really pisses me off every time I hear someone say, Elon Musk should be spending his money to end world hunger. And I'm going, okay, do you guys understand? He's trying to do a Mars mission. And one of the natural results of him trying to do a Mars mission, especially since he doesn't just want to go to Mars, he wants to make a fucking Mars base, is he needs to develop a technology that would allow him to produce food in an area where you normally can't produce food. Care to guess where that tech can be used on Earth? Could it be that it could be used in areas that currently can't produce food to make it so that those areas can? Because if so, how the fuck doesn't that?
You know, that reminds me of something else that Communist Grandpa was talking about on the floor of the Senate that I saw today on Twitter. He was complaining about apparently, I guess, Bezos's Blue Origins was going to get some kind of subsidy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the exact amount it was, but it was a princely sum, let's say. And he was like, you know, we shouldn't be giving this money to, you know, the second wealthiest man in the country so that he can indulge in a you know, space race with the wealthiest man in the country. It's like, how's NASA been doing with space flight in just, I don't know, my lifetime?
Also,
weren't we paying fucking Russia to fly us up to the space station? I mean, you guys dropped the ball. Go ahead and it's not like it was going straight into Bezos' pocket. It was going to a company that he owns.
And
well,
here's something that pisses. Oh, go ahead. You first.
Oh, sorry. Here's the thing about this. And everybody's like, oh, we're subsidizing Elon Musk to make rockets and everything else. Who the fuck made the rockets before Elon Musk? We didn't say, oh, North American Aerospace is getting subsidized for making the moon capsule. No, well, maybe. No.
And there's a difference between a subsidy and just a government contract that people keep on playing real fast and loose with. Because a good chunk of the time when they say, oh, this company is getting subsidized, I look into it and they have a government contract. They're being paid for producing this for the government.
Now, see, I could have made that mistake just now, in full disclosure, Sanguine, because the clip that I saw, I don't remember him saying it was a subsidy or a government contract, but he was talking about, you know, this ungodly amount of money that was going to go to Mr. Bezos. It's like, yeah, it's not going to him directly. We're not just cutting him a check.
And
you know,
even if we were, if it is in exchange for goods and services, yeah, you fucking should be paying him because it's in exchange for goods and services. He gives you the goods. As long as you get the goods, you give him the money for said goods. That's commerce, fucker.
Well, here's the thing is that us contracting to SpaceX is saving us money, because if we did it through NASA, we would have to buy the rocket and we put it on the pad and it blows up. The company that made it's like, well, it's all right. You want to buy another one? SpaceX is actually accepting the risk there.
Mm-hmm.
They're holding on the risk. So if they fail, we're not on the hook for it.
Yep. It's kind of why I wish that we did more government competitions. And what I mean by government competitions is, are you guys familiar with the DARPA?
DARPA, the Defense something agency.
Yep. So
The mountain in Chicago.
I don't remember. Huh?
The mountain base in Chicago. Or Colorado.
DARPA
No, that's NORAD you're thinking of, Johnny.
All right, okay.
DARPA has a ongoing competition that it keeps on bumping up every time that someone wins a section of it. It'll make it more difficult and keep it going. So it's for self-driving vehicles was one of them.
being able to make a vehicle that could navigate through this ridiculous obstacle course effectively, that it had to be completely autonomous. You could not be directing it through. You couldn't program it in so that it would just, at 27 feet forward, you do this, and then at 36, you do that. It had to be demonstrated to actually be observing the obstacles and then developing a method of negotiating the obstacle. Guess where a lot of driverless car tech came from? Guess where a lot of just general AI tech for navigating came from? It came from shit like that. Because the deal was that you wouldn't get paid if you didn't actually meet the challenge, but you could still keep all the research that you did in order to reach that challenge. So a bunch of schools and companies and individuals were participating in this in order to win the prize money and win the fame of being the person to complete this leg of the challenge.
I'm going to say something a little commie right now, but I'll power through it. I personally think that government-sponsored research is a great thing. And my reasoning behind that is there is things that can be researched, that need to be researched, that don't have profitability, have too much of a risk for a company to actually take on to make it profitable. And there's another one there somewhere. I'll figure it out later.
I've been of the mind that the best role that a government can take when it comes to shit like this is they are the originator of a great work. So what I mean by great works are the absolutely ridiculous structures that probably would not be built without the government going, hey, can you make this for us? A really good example of this, the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam is absolutely insane. And what is the yes-no vote about?
I know, it's just something I wanted to throw out there.
Yes, no, what?
Yes or no? That is the question.
42.
But
Well,
yeah,
this is
construction of the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam is absolutely ridiculous. It won't finish setting for over 1,000 years. It has not finished drying. We poured so much goddamn concrete that it, like I said, 1,000 years for it to finish curing. How fucking ridiculous is that? The highway system was a grand work. It's not an immediately obvious thing that people will earn money from. It's something that will facilitate people earning money. But in and of itself, it wasn't something that people went, oh yeah, let me just make roads going everywhere to this specification.
Well, there's also one great work that everybody kind of overlooks that actually made like all of modern life tolerable, and that's the sewer systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Public sanitation, yeah.
Nuclear power.
Yeah, the government is at its best directing great works. The space race was an example of a great work. And when we were in the full run of the space race, we were doing really fucking cool things that at some point we just stopped doing for some fucking reason. My favorite story from the space race, or one of my favorites, is, do you guys know how we got the people that shaped the foam that was needed for the space shuttle? Because there was this one specific type of foam that needed to be used in making the space shuttle. Anyone know how we got the people who shaped it?
No.
This has nothing to do with Operation Paperclip, does it?
I don't believe so now.
Okay. Then I have no clue.
Actually, no, it absolutely does not, because Paperclip was the Nazi scientist.
Yeah, developing the rockets.
Yep. So what we did was, we as a nation went, okay, we need to use this one foam. Okay, who works with this foam? Well, people use it to make surfboards. Wait, really? Yeah, people use it to make surfboards. Okay, who are the best people at doing this? Well, these surfers and surfboard makers are the best at shaping the foam. Okay, go hire them for NASA. And we went out and we went, hey, will you shape the foam for NASA? And their response was, wait, what?
Cowabunga, dude.
Will you shape the foam? Sure. Okay, how much do we need to pay you? And what are your conditions? Well, if it's really nice waves, we need to go out and be able to surf. Okay, we'll allow you to take your surf break whenever the waves are nice, but you have to put in this number of hours per week. And the surfers went, sure, we'll fucking do that. So NASA hired a shit ton of surfers because they knew how to shape foam that they needed, and they made the concession that the surfers wanted in order to be willing to work for NASA, which was literally, we needed to be able to take surf breaks when there's nice waves. I shit you not, that was one of their criteria. And
see, I would have been like, I never want to pay taxes again, like ever.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely do that was Armageddon, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would absolutely pull the Armageddon as well. But the guys just said that they wanted to be able to take surf breaks. NASA agreed. NASA went with it. In the early days of NASA, that was what NASA did. They went, we have a problem. Who can do this? And then they went to find the best people to do it. Didn't matter who the fuck they were. Didn't matter what job, what hobby, whatever they were. They would go to these people and go, okay, you can do this, right? Yep. We want you to do it. Now we have this nasty habit of, no, they can't do the job, even though we know that they can do the job. They aren't allowed to do the job until we have this, that, and the other accounted for, and it's all paperwork or them having the right piece of paper from the right people. When no, if you have someone that can do the job, just fucking hire them. If you have people that you're pretty sure can do the job, go to them and ask, how do we get you guys to do this job? And most of them will give you a fucking answer on what it takes for them to do the job, and then you give it to them and they do the goddamn job.
We just...
Well, I was wanting to kind of take the conversation a different direction here for a minute, since we got another Okie here with us.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of different stories from our state today that I wanted to talk about a little bit and get Travis's opinion on, because I don't know if you guys know this or not, I don't know shit about NASA, so trying to play to my strengths here. The first story I thought was actually kind of cool. Apparently, our National Guard here in Oklahoma has not met the vaccination requirements and doesn't look like they're going to. So they may be downgraded to just being a militia.
Ah.
Oklahoma might have the first militia in the United States in a good long while.
Okay, then.
First militia.
I said in a good long while. The first state militia in a good long while. I was like, okay, let's see how that plays out. Have you seen anything about that, Travis?
Yeah, I've seen that, and I am totally for it. Because for one, I'm totally for it for one reason. I'm kind of against it because we may lose federal funding for it. I'm totally for it because it sounds cool.
Yeah, learn from the Montanans and don't go Freeman on us.
That is one of the best reasons. It sounds cool.
Yeah, that was my whole reasoning for wanting to talk about it. I was like, that sounds fucking cool. Let's see how it goes.
I mean, how can it be a downgrade when it sounds cooler? I mean, okay, guys, we're going to send in the Okie militia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last time I heard about like the Oklahoma National Guard doing something really cool was when we invaded Texas, like during the Depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, we invaded Texas over a toll bridge.
I was about to ask, was it intentional?
Yes.
Yeah. And like, go ahead.
And it was epic. It involved Alfalfa Bill Murray, our greatest.
I was gonna say, yeah, the greatest named governor in the history of ever, Alfalfa Bill fucking Murray,
leading a charge into Texas on horseback with a revolver, with National Guard members in tow, pulling machine guns.
Fighting it out with the Texas Rangers.
Yep.
Why don't we have insane son of bitches elected anymore? Or at least
because it would just be too much fun.
Sons of bitches. We have plenty of insane sons of bitches, but we don't have the impressively insane ones.
Well, it's because I'm not running for office, Sanguine.
God damn it.
I had one lady back in the day. I was like in my early 20s, working at a convenience store, and I'd get my duties at the job taken care of fairly early in the shift. So I just was sitting there reading the papers,
Mm-hmm.
And she'd always see me sitting there reading, the Tulsa World or the Daily Oklahoman or the local paper. She's like, well, you seem really knowledgeable about stuff going on. You should run for office. I was like, no. I was like, I think religion's bad and drugs are good. Nobody's going to vote for me around here. Oh, how the times have changed, folks.
Now's your time. Now's your time. Run for office again. Become the insane sons of bitches in the fucking political world.
Well, the second story out of Oklahoma might actually, I was like, I would consider it because I don't know if you guys know, today is November 18th. And, well, at least for another 3 minutes here in Oklahoma. And the other big story today to come out of our state involved a death row inmate by the name of Julius Jones. Have any of you guys heard of the story?
I'm hoping that he's not getting any reprieve because the son of a bitch is guilty as shit.
He got it.
He got his sentence commuted to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
It's because Governor Stetton has no testicles.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, what was it, the tweet that I saw, the story I saw about the Oklahoma National Guard, it specifically referenced the governor. Like, he had something to do with this decision for them to, not meet the vaccination requirements. And so, like, that was earlier in the day before the story about Julius Jones broke. And so everyone's like, hey, yeah, fucking go Oklahoma. Way to go, Governor Stitt. And then, like, this afternoon, it comes out, like, within hours before he's supposed to get the needle. It's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. It's like, oh, fuck you, dude. It's like, The man is guilty as hell. And for those of you in chat who do not know the story, it's been getting a lot of attention on social media because you've got celebrities like Kim Kardashian, standing behind Julius Jones in his corner. Also, Baker Mayfield.
Goddamn thing about it.
Heisman Trophy winner Baker Mayfield, the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, he was also making comments about Julius Jones in the lead up to today.
Oh, fuck.
In support of him. Yeah. Yeah, so you got these celebrities who were, cheerleading for this guy. And that's what it was. It was a bunch of social media pressure by people who knew absolutely nothing about the case. And just to give a quick rundown, in 1999, Julius Jones and his friend Christopher Jordan went out looking to carjack somebody. And they came across a gentleman by the name of Paul Howell, who was taking his daughters out for ice cream, and also his sister.
Yep, his daughters.
And they followed him back to his parents' house where he was living at the time because he was going through a divorce. Julius Jones walked up the driveway into the garage and immediately shot Paul Howell in the head with a .25 caliber pistol, killed him, took a few shots at the sister and daughters as they were fleeing into the house before he got into the Suburban and ended up driving over Paul Howell's body on the way out of the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they found the murder weapon wrapped up in a red bandana in Julius Jones's house, in his bedroom. Not only that, but the sister identified him as the shooter. He was wearing the bandana, so she couldn't say, positively it was him by his face. But she described what he was wearing, which they also found in Julius Jones's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
They demanded, for DNA testing after a documentary. It was at ABC or Dateline, one of those programs, did a documentary about it called what was it, the Last Offense or something?
Well, that actually happened after the DNA test was done, because the DNA test was originally requested on one of his first appeals.
Well, then they did not put it into the documentary because it didn't fit the narrative.
Yeah,
but they did do DNA testing on it. They found his DNA on the bandana that the murder weapon was wrapped in, and no one else. Well, I mean, they may have found trace amounts of DNA, but that could have been from the guy that sold him the bandana. They couldn't positively identify any other DNA. For it to have been somebody else's DNA instead of his, you would have had to have multiplied just in the African American population in the country. You would have had to multiply it to you would have had to have 100 million black men in the country before you got a chance at another person matching the DNA profile.
I thought it was almost 1 trillion.
I think that was in the general population. You would have to go find through a trillion different people or something in general. But if you were just focusing specifically on the African American community, you would need 100 million dudes before you found somebody else that could have matched up.
I was so pissed off about this today. I mean, because I know none of the aspects of the case have anything to do, with his decision. It was intimidated into doing it.
It was social media pressure and celebrity pressure.
And I have a feeling it was probably a lot of the pressure is if he went ahead with the execution and Rittenhouse got acquitted, shit was going to happen. Shit could have happened, and I think he was kind of afraid of that. That's why they roped off his house and put barricades up around the governor's mansion.
Well, that's when you call in the militia.
Mm-hmm.
But no, all the different stories that they've been trying to spin about why he's innocent completely fall apart when you actually look at the evidence. Like they said, he wasn't even there. He had an alibi. He was with his family, at the time of the murder. And his defense attorneys, they didn't even bring that up at trial. It's like, yeah, because he wasn't at home with his family at the time of the murder.
Yeah, he admitted he wasn't.
He told his defense attorneys that he was like on the south side of Oklahoma City the night of the murder. He wasn't at home with his family, so they didn't call his family because that would have been suborning perjury.
Mm-hmm.
They said, Christopher Jordan, he copped a plea. He only did 15 years, and he told his different cellmates that he did it. And Julius Jones wasn't even there. It's like, okay, well, if we're going to believe jailhouse snitches, you also have multiple inmates at OSP who wrote to, I think, the Attorney General's office, detailing how Julius Jones was not the model inmate that they were portraying him as. He was smoking weed in his cell. He had a cell phone, contraband cell phone. And apparently he was also a shot caller for, like, the Bloods on the inside and had tried to put a hit out on another inmate. So, I mean, if we're going to believe these jailhouse snitches... Huh?
And has been in constant fights.
Yeah. I was like, so if you're gonna sit there and give weight to these couple of jailhouse snitches that I've never seen anybody name their names, maybe we should also give some weight to these other guys. No? Oh.
Well, I mean, if it was Governor Travis Gardner, I would have put in there after careful consideration of all the facts of the case.
If it was Governor Camel, I would have pressed the button myself.
I would have came to the conclusion and I would have said, nope, fuck them. Fire up old Squirty.
Mm-hmm.
But what else was there? Actual Justice Warrior has done a couple of videos on the Julius Jones case.
Excellent videos on it.
Excellent videos, yes. And in one of his videos, he details how Julius Jones had written to his girlfriend at the time, trying to, convince, wink, wink, nudge, nudge,
intimidate
her to try to convince her to change her testimony because it didn't help his case, and he needed her to, forget, some details and this and that. Just tell them that you don't remember. They can't do anything to you for that.
And it's for your own good. I mean, I have some crazy family members.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, Julius. Are they crazy enough to lie to the cops for you? I mean, how crazy are they? If they're willing to kill a bitch, surely they're willing to lie, right?
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so much of this case is just... generally, I'm opposed to the death penalty, right? I'm opposed not because I think, it's bad that some of these people are put to death. I'm opposed to the state power aspect to it, because when you have, governments like this, you have a bunch of different people who are making these decisions, and when you have enough people, when you have enough cooks in the kitchen, accountability gets lost eventually. But in this case, it's like, this dude is so clearly fucking guilty. And also, the number of people who are lining up to defend him is like, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people deserve to die, and he's right at the top of my list. He killed a man in front of his children for the equivalent of $4,000. That's how much that Suburban that they were going to carjack this guy for was worth in 1999.
He wasn't willing to kill a person for that. He was willing
to kill 4 people.
Yeah.
He just happened to miss 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
This is just...
and that's 4,000 total that he was going to split with his partner, the getaway driver, Christopher Jordan. So he was willing to kill 4 people for $2,000.
And even their explanation for why he was framed for it, the proponents of it, that makes no fucking sense, because they say that it was racism that caused him to be convicted when it should have been this other black guy that was convicted. Wait, hold on a second.
It's racist because we didn't pick the right black guy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they try to say, it's like, oh, well, according to the witness statement, the the killer had cornrows. Like, no, the witness never made a statement about him having cornrows. She said that she could see some hair sticking out from underneath his, like, do-rag.
And in fact, emphatically stated, when questioned, no, it was not cornrows. I know what cornrows are.
She knew what cornrows are, and looking at the cap that he was wearing, it was smooth, not ridged like you would have with cornrows. Mm-hmm. The woman was a costume designer. She has an eye for detail when it comes to what people are fucking wearing, for God's sake. But yeah, it got commuted to life without the possibility of parole, which, I mean, who's to say in another 10, 20 years that doesn't get knocked down?
I have people on Twitter that are just saying, no, he should be released because he's innocent. And I'm like, there is absolutely no foundation for you to say he's fucking innocent, you fucking morons.
Yep, there's all the reason to say man's guilty as hell. There is no goddamn reason, and all the reason against it to say that he's innocent, because he isn't fucking innocent. He killed a man. It was proven in a court of law. All the evidence that they have said would disprove the conviction actually further proved it.
He's had multiple appeals. The Supreme Court has denied hearing it 3-4 times now?
Uh-huh.
By every legal measure, he's guilty. And the only reason why he did not get his sentence carried out to the fullest extent is because our governor decided to lose his balls at the last second. So yeah, that might make me actually go, you know what? Let's try our hand at politics. Fuck it.
Yeah, the only proper response to a request for clemency in this would have been, fuck it, from twice.
Well, he was trying to get it put off there for a while because him and a few other inmates here in Oklahoma had filed a federal suit about the death penalty procedure in the state. The death penalty had been put on ice for like 6 years because of what was that dude's name? Clayton. Oh shit, was Clayton his first name or last name? I can't remember. It was like 2015. They had an inmate on the row.
The paralytic didn't work.
Well, it did work. The problem was the person who put the needle in him, they pushed through the vein and ended up injecting it into his muscle.
Ah.
So it took him like 45 minutes to finally die. And they said, oh, it was a botched execution. I was like, is he dead? Well, then it was successful. It just took longer than expected.
Do you know about the crime that he committed to get executed for?
If I'm not mistaken, let's see, I don't remember if he actually raped the girl, but he kidnapped this young woman. I think he did rape her, and then he shotgunned her in the stomach and then buried her alive.
Yes. He beat, raped, shot, and buried alive a 16-year-old girl.
Wait, she was 16? I thought she was like 19, 20.
Well, it actually doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. The age does not matter, really, but still.
But of all the people, people are like, he suffered to the end. Well, how about
good?
Her? God damn it.
I mean, you take a shotgun blast to the stomach and then have someone bury you alive and tell me that that's not suffering.
Yeah, personally,
the fact that that guy convulsed and whatnot for 45 minutes before he finally met his maker, I'm not going to lose a wink of sleep, and I'm not going to shed a single tear for him. These guys are not on death row because they were singing too loud in the church choir. All right.
And personally, I am one of the people. I am a minority in this. People will probably judge me for saying this. Fuck it. That is an advocate for returning to the short drop and quick stop method.
I mean, I realize that, bullets aren't as cheap as they have been in the previously, but I mean, we still have the option for firing squad here in Oklahoma. I say we put it to use.
Well, but yeah, the reason why I say that we should go back to hangings is if a hanging is done correctly, which we have calculations and reference books to explain what type of rope, how long of a drop, for what weight of the person, all that good shit. It is an extremely quick, reliable, and humane method of execution.
Well, and I say we kind of amp it up a notch. That way you don't have to worry about the science of it. Just give them the concrete shoes. And then,
You want their head to pop clean off. Is that it, Johnny?
Well, just I don't want mistakes to be made.
It would not be the first time.
I say, like I said, we have the option in Oklahoma. If you find yourself on death row, you can choose to die by firing squad. And I say, you had 6 guys lined up with rifles. Give one of them a blank, give the other 5 live. Really make sure. Let them take a step up. Get a little closer. Make sure they don't miss. Instead of giving them, one guy gets a bullet and the rest of them get blanks. Switch it up a bit. Let them think that they're the one that got the blank.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, though, short drop, quick stop, nice and reliable.
I think
and rope is fairly cheap. I'm not opposed to your idea, Sanguine.
I think
and reusable too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the governor should have what they call the wheel of execution, where the guy comes in there and he spins the wheel.
The wheel of fate.
And it clicks on his method of execution. I could just see it. It goes, all right, finally, we get to use those crocodiles.
And
just spinning a wheel like the Price is Right.
You got a free spin. Spin it again.
Oh, double whammy. Sucks to be you.
What Valine just said reminded me of a contemporary to the guillotine that was noted as one of the most hellish execution methods. So Valine said, I think we want to avoid cruelty, bring the guillotine. And are you guys aware that there was another device that was designed about the same time as a guillotine that was also designed to sever someone's spinal cord in order for execution?
No, I'm not aware of this. What are we talking about here?
It is one of the most hellish execution devices ever, because what would happen is the person would be strapped onto the device, and it was meant to be absolutely sure it would sever the spinal cord, but the doctor was fucking retarded when he designed it, because rather than having it so that it strapped them to the device and then it was just something that you quickly slammed into the spinal cord, he decided that what he would do is he would make a screw mechanism.
Ooh. I see where this is going.
You'd be strapped to this chair, effectively. You'd put the screw in the back, and it would look kind of like, those old school winding toy keys?
Mm-hmm.
Only it had a pointed end, and you'd screw it into this hole in the back of the chair that would go through the back of the chair, through that hole, then start screwing into the back of the neck to sever the spinal cord. He didn't think that, what's really hellishly slow? Screwing something in.
Talk about getting screwed to death.
Isn't that for the term put the screws to him?
I thought that was like thumb screws.
Yeah, that's most likely thumb screws.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was like some Spanish Inquisition shit.
either Spain or Portugal had a garroting chair. It had a band that went around the neck, and then it tightened down and basically choked the person to death like a garrote.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Yeah, I think I've seen one of those.
My problem is with that, though, is I don't care about the executed, but the executioner is probably like, man, I really don't want to have to go in there and do this. This is just too fucking slow.
Sign me up. I'll do it.
But yeah, the only execution methods that I can think of that were more fucked up than the screw one. Here, I actually found an image. It has a mark on it, but I can still show you guys what this fucking thing looked like.
You know, in Oklahoma, we also still have the option for electric chair as well. So under Governor Camel, murderers will ride the lightning, and sex offenders can get the pair of anguish. What do you say?
You'd be so kind.
Well, I would think that, you know...
That's what the device looked like.
People are so against, you know...
nice.
Human experimentation. Let's see why we couldn't use these guys for it.
Yeah, you'd have this metal collar fastened around your neck. That way you couldn't move away from it. And then, yeah, this spike would be screwed in, severing your spinal column.
I am not opposed.
Like I said, it is one of the most fucked up methods of execution. The only one that's worse that I can think of easily is... Are you guys familiar with the Brazen Bull?
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Yeah,
boil them alive, pretty much.
Yeah, the Brazen Bull's fucked. And then, of course, there's the more torturous methods like the Blood Eagle, which is impressive. It's fucked as all hell, but it's impressive.
Well,
I'm surprised that the pair of anguish didn't get a reaction out of anybody.
That is kind of bad.
There's also, of course, the method of sawing someone in half, ass first.
So we're talking like up the middle, like hot dog style, or?
Yep, up the middle, hot dog style.
Ooh. Yeah, that could take a while.
Starting with the taint.
Yeah, that could take a while.
Yep. I can't remember which... I want to say it was used in China for one of the rebels. It was either China or the Middle East, and it was used for one of the rebels. The person being executed was the dumbass who suggested being hung upside down for it. And he really regretted that.
Wait, hung upside... So, like, he started with the head?
Hung upside down. So they were originally going to strap him in place. So his arms would be strapped above his head, and then legs strapped to the side of a frame.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping him in position so he couldn't squirm away.
Oh, so him being upside down, like the blood just ran down into his face.
Ran down into his face, and also resulted in him being in half, starting with the taint, rather than starting with the head, which was what they were originally planning on doing, until the jackass said, do it upside down. And like I said, that was the person being executed, was the one who suggested, do it upside down.
Oh, that's just retarded.
Something's not right with that boy.
But I bet you the guys who were doing it was like, you know what? He's on to something here.
This is substantially more fucked up, isn't it?
Yeah, all I have to say is, thank God for that 8th Amendment, folks.
And Green Badger Outdoors is recommending the hamster treatment. Shove the person in a walk-in microwave.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of cleaning up afterwards.
Yeah. It is creative, though. You have to give him that.
I do like the old school methods. Firing squad, hanging, electric chair. Mostly because you're not going to have as much cleanup afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I said, under Governor Camel, murderers ride the lightning, sex offenders ride the pair of anguish.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
let's see how that recidivism rate just drops afterwards.
As much as we're having fun talking about torture, I'm going to have to call it. I'm starting to.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Travis hasn't just nodded off yet either.
Mm-hmm. I was expecting halfway through to just glance over and see his head completely slack and just.
Did Travis sleep stream?
Mm-hmm.
You can join Donkey in his doze.
There is one thing that I need to think of. I need to think of an actual, like YouTube name other than my actual name.
Mm-hmm.
And an avatar.
I just picked the brand of cigarettes that 4 out of 5 doctors approved of when I was a kid.
Wait, hold on a second. What is my... No, I don't have one. I'll need to think of something.
But, we're going to go to parting thoughts. And, Camel?
I guess vote Camel 2022.
And, Travis?
Maybe I took a little bit too much.
All right, Sanguine?
He took so many sleeping meds that were all just his hallucination. And
not quite putting up Elvis numbers, but he's getting close.
Oh yeah, no, not yet.
I'll leave off with my standard. If you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you.
And I'm going to leave off with the tweet because it was just shared, so I'll have to show it.
That was me.
Yeah.
That one was awesome. I do love that.
There was another meme going around real fast. That was like Kyle declared not guilty. As he's leaving the courtroom, the judge says, "Hey kid." He turns around, and the judge tosses him his gun and says, "You know what to do." And then Eye of the Tiger starts playing.
Wow.
Nice.
And there's
the bee don't miss.
And there's Sanguine's tweet for his Twitter for
cooking
stuff.
Yep, which I just uploaded my week's worth of food or week's worth of dinners earlier today. So plenty more food porn for people that are interested in that.
All right. And so on that, the zoo is closed. You all have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good night, all.